Going into it, I wasn't exactly looking forward to it. You never really know what to expect. But then, halfway through, something strange happens. You just kind of forget. Suddenly, you're strolling over to the craft service table like it's any other day, reaching for a snack, and that's when the key grip gives you the look. Could you maybe please put on some pants before you grab the celery sticks? Just anything? A little modesty? The key, really, is a warm room. At least, that's what I tell myself. Thankfully, I had let's call it a makeshift fig leaf, strategically placed. So, in the end, it didn't really matter. Hi, friends. Katie here from Whispering Over Court Filings, combing through every detail, and I've just come across something big. Maybe it's been discussed elsewhere, but to me, this is new, and it changes everything. Let's talk about Ryan Reynolds' motion to dismiss, because it has opened up a Pandora's box that frankly makes things so much worse for him and Blake Lively. See, Blake and Ryan were sure they had it all figured out. They thought they had the evidence, the smoking gun that would bury Justin Baldoni, pinning him as the reason their reputations took a hit. Never mind the fact that they had, in many ways, done that to themselves. They wanted more leverage, more money. Blake, in particular, was now claiming she was owed millions for work on a film she had originally volunteered to be part of, but now, after its unexpected success, she wanted her cut, allegedly. But then, disaster. Their plan, their entire strategy, unraveled in real time. They were so focused on targeting Justin, Wayfair, and a group of publicists that they overlooked one crucial detail. Stephanie Jones. Yes, the CEO of Jones Works. The woman who, behind the scenes, held the match that lit the fire. They filed lawsuits against Jennifer Ale and Melissa Nathan. Jennifer, who was working for Jones Works during the entire so-called smear campaign. But somehow, they left out the very person who knew everything. Stephanie Jones wasn't just a bystander. She was the one who spoke to the Daily Mail first. She was the one who set everything in motion. And when Wayfair and Justin realized what Stephanie had done, well, let's just say that's when everything took a turn. And trust me, you're going to want to hear what happens next. They wanted out. They believed she had breached her contract. Working with her was no longer an option. Stephanie had created this mess, an absolute disaster. Instead of upholding the confidentiality she was bound to protect, she made a reckless choice. Rather than safeguarding sensitive information, she turned the tables, orchestrating the termination of Jennifer Ale, despite the fact that Jennifer had already resigned. But that wasn't enough. Stephanie then accused Jennifer of stealing trade secrets, of attempting to poach clients. According to Jennifer's complaint, it was all a ruse, a setup. Stephanie arranged for Jennifer to be brought into an office, where a security officer stood at the door, ensuring she had no way out. Then, an attorney demanded she hand over her personal laptop, searched illegally, multiple times, with no subpoena, no court order. They took her phone too, extracted everything, emails, text messages, every last detail. And then, on the very same day, Stephanie handed those messages over to Leslie Sloan Blake's PR team. Within hours, Leslie was on the phone with Melissa Nathan. You're getting sued. That was the moment the fire was lit. The moment Stephanie destroyed everything. She violated confidentiality. She broke the agreement, one that had kept Blake and Justin's publicists, Leslie and Melissa, from talking to the press. And when it all started to crumble, when Wayfair was ready to cut her loose, she did what she does best. She covered her tracks. Now, she wants to rewrite the story, twist the narrative, shift the blame. But the truth? The truth has a way of coming out. Despite being the one responsible, she managed to shift the blame elsewhere. And then there was Blake, determined to deny any fault of her own, refusing to acknowledge that the issues with her marketing approach and her response to the film were entirely of her own making. The fans of Colleen, who were the primary audience for the film, weren't pleased with how it was being marketed. But who was behind the marketing now? None other than Maximum Effort, Ryan Reynolds' marketing company. And Ryan himself? He actively promoted the film's marketing on his YouTube channel and Instagram. Yet now, Ryan is trying to distance himself. In his motion to dismiss, he insists that he had no involvement in any of this, that he was not connected to the project in a way that would make him liable. But here's where things get interesting. During the film's red carpet premiere, Blake made an intriguing admission. In an interview with E.T., she revealed that her husband had written the rooftop scene. If Ryan had no involvement, why was she crediting him with writing a pivotal moment in the film? And then, there's the real kicker. On December 20th, long before any lawsuits had been filed, Ryan Reynolds himself took the first step. His attorney sent a letter to several key figures, including Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, VP of Wayfair Studios, and others. The letter made one thing crystal clear. The law firm represented not just Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, but also their associated business entities, Betty Buzz, Blake Brown Aviation Gin, Mint Mobile, and Maximum Effort Productions. Collectively, they referred to themselves as the Lively Reynolds parties. So why was Ryan claiming he had nothing to do with this when his own legal team had already taken action? The letter accused Wayfair Studios of deliberately targeting Blake and the Lively Reynolds parties, alleging harassment, reputational damage, and a coordinated media smear campaign. More than that, it claimed that Wayfair manipulated media coverage, controlling narratives about an alleged hostile work environment caused by Baldoni and Heath. The truth is undeniable. Ryan Reynolds wasn't merely involved. He was the first to make a legal move. And yet, when it came time to file his motion to dismiss, what did he say? Mr. Reynolds is a defendant in this action. The contradictions are piling up. The question now is, how long before it all unravels? For one reason, and one reason only. Because billionaire plaintiff Steve Sarowitz vowed to spend up to $100 million to destroy Miss Lively and Mr. Reynolds. And now, with the first amended complaint, that promise is unfolding, flooding the court's docket with hundreds of paragraphs of sensationalized allegations that have little to no legal standing. The irony? Miss Lively's own complaint was 500 paragraphs long, and by the same logic, one could call that clickbait, too. Reynolds, however, isn't positioning himself as a wrongdoer. No, his motion to dismiss makes it clear. This isn't about legal claims. This is about a personal vendetta. He claims there isn't a single shred of credible evidence that could hold up in court. Their so-called receipts? A patchwork of selectively annotated messages, heavily redacted by an unnamed party. Emails, text exchanges, videos, and even a bizarre photographic comparison of Reynolds' long hairstyle in a movie versus Mr. Baldwin's real-life look at some unknown point in time. But if they had nothing against him, if their case was so weak, why was Reynolds the one threatening legal action in the first place? What's even more intriguing is his attempt to discredit the timeline of key events. The Sony emails explicitly state that Maximum Effort was taking the lead. Text messages show Reynolds personally contacting Justin about the schedule. Conversations with Sony executives detail threats, while Maximum Effort spearheaded promotions. The cease and desist order, issued under his company's name, with attorneys representing Maximum Effort Productions. Yet here, in his motion, Reynolds paints himself as the victim of a targeted takedown, dismissing it all as a vendetta fueled by Sarowitz. But I have my own theory. I truly believe Ryan set this entire thing in motion. He's meticulous, calculated, the type to control the narrative at all costs. But I digress. The plaintiffs believed they had stumbled upon a smoking gun, a web of messages that, to them, proved an orchestrated smear campaign. But those messages came from Stephanie Jones, and the claim was that they were obtained through a subpoena. However, Jennifer Abel's countersuit against Stephanie tells a different story. Her emails and texts landed in the hands of Leslie Sloan the exact same day her phone was taken. Coincidence? Hardly. Then there's the contract, a legally binding confidentiality agreement that forbade Stephanie from sharing any information, and Jennifer, bound by a similar contract preventing her from disclosing client details to third parties. Both agreements were clear. Both were, allegedly, violated. Stephanie knew the risks. She knew what she was setting in motion by going to the press. The moment she did, she sealed her fate, losing her clients, Wayfair, Jennifer. She despised Melissa Nathan, and the last thing she wanted was to be on Blake and Ryan's bad side once they uncovered the truth. In my opinion, and I say this with confidence, Stephanie Jones was fully aware of the liabilities she created, and what she's attempting now, it may very well be outside the bounds of the law. Now, with Jennifer Abel's countersuit and cross-complaint pulling a third party into Blake's case, everything is about to get a lot more complicated. And if Blake was planning to fall on the sword, she may no longer have that option. Stephanie Jones thought she was just a bystander in this whole mess, until now. The truth is unraveling, and it's about to shatter the idea that Jennifer Abel was some rogue operator. She wasn't. She was always on Stephanie Jones' payroll. And now, with the third-party complaint coming to light, things are about to get ugly. The real problem? Once Stephanie is dragged into this, she'll be facing the very real possibility of being held liable for damages. Blake, of course, would need to prove those damages, a task that seems highly questionable, if not outright impossible. But Jennifer Abel isn't backing down. She's making it crystal clear. Stephanie won't be walking away from this unscathed. Abel intends to invoke her right to indemnification, arguing that she was simply an employee following orders, and she has the paperwork to back it up. An employment agreement that explicitly states, except to the extent caused by employee or resulting from a breach of this agreement by employee, the company shall indemnify and hold harmless the employee from and against any and all liability, claims, costs, damages, and expenses, including reasonable outside attorney fees, arising out of or in connection with any breach by the company of the terms of this agreement or any warranties and representations made herein. Jennifer isn't just quoting fine print. She's putting up a fight. She already told Stephanie she's voiding the agreement, citing California labor laws. Under those laws, no employer can force an employee to litigate claims outside the state where they worked. And Jennifer worked in California. That means California's labor protections apply, whether Stephanie likes it or not. Jennifer is adamant. She didn't end up in this lawsuit by choice. She claims her name only appears in the amended complaint because of orders she followed while working for Jones Works. Either Stephanie Jones handed over documents after Jennifer left, making this a case of employer retaliation, which, by the way, is illegal, or Jennifer was simply doing her job, following instructions under contract. Either way, Jennifer argues, the liability should rest entirely on Jones Works, not her, and California law is on her side. The Labor Code explicitly states that an employer must indemnify an employee for any necessary expenditures or losses incurred while performing their job duties, even if those actions ultimately turn out to be unlawful, as long as the employee believed they were acting lawfully at the time. Jennifer isn't stopping there. She's not only demanding full indemnification, but she's also insisting that if she's found liable in any way, Jones Works must cover her attorney's fees. Then there's another complication. Wayfair Studios and Justin. They weren't Jennifer's clients. They were Jones Works clients. That means, according to Jennifer, the responsibility for any actions tied to them falls squarely on Jones Works. What happens next? That's the question. But one thing is clear. This battle is far from over. Here's a revised version with a bit more suspense. Jennifer is now caught in a legal storm, one she insists she had no role in creating. She argues that the real blame lies elsewhere, that it was Jones' works, not her, that set events into motion, ultimately leading to the claims against her. In essence, she's saying, you handed over my work, and now I'm the one facing legal action for it, even though the real lawsuit should be against you. This was your company, your responsibility, and now you're trying to cover your tracks. The situation has escalated. Jennifer has been named as a third-party defendant in a cross-complaint, meaning she's no longer just a bystander. She's officially part of the case. And with that comes a major complication: discovery. Now, Blake and her legal team have far more access to evidence than they would have if Jennifer had remained a mere witness. But the biggest question remains: why would Blake target Jennifer instead of Jones' works, the very company that orchestrated everything? The only logical explanation is that Blake believes Stephanie played no role in this. But that assumption doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Jennifer wasn't running her own PR firm at the time. She was a Jones Works employee through and through. Her emails, through the company. Her paycheck, signed by them. The Wayfair contract, it wasn't between Jennifer and the client. It was between Jones Works and Wayfair, with Stephanie at the helm. Blake dragging Jennifer into this legal battle seems, at best, misguided, at worst, deliberate manipulation. And Stephanie? She appears to be working behind the scenes, trying to control the narrative. Evidence from emails and texts paints a telling picture. Jennifer's resignation in July 2024. Stephanie's conversations about hiring decisions that fueled personal rivalries, and a slew of messages that show an active effort to manage the media storm. One email, dated August 8th, shows the Independent reaching out to Stephanie for a response to a brewing media inquiry. Another from August 14th has her strategizing, crafting a plan to shape the press coverage, ensuring that Justin's side doesn't get buried under Blake's version of events. She emphasizes the importance of controlling the narrative, mobilizing supporters, and enlisting bloggers to shift the public perception. It all begs the question: who is truly pulling the strings in this unfolding drama? The web of deception is unraveling, and at the center of it all stands Stephanie Jones. While Miss Blake insists that the ideas originated from Melissa Nathan's email on August 14th, the evidence paints a different picture, one where Jones is the orchestrator behind the scenes. Emails between a Daily Mail reporter and Stephanie Jones, forwarded by Jones herself, reveal her direct involvement. She left word for them. The entire exchange captures her discussing details with the Daily Mail. And then there's the damning text message between Leslie Sloan and the Daily Mail, where they outright confirm receiving their information from Stephanie. Leslie, upon discovering this, doesn't hesitate. She calls Jones a liar. Now, faced with undeniable evidence, Stephanie is scrambling. She's shifting blame, pointing fingers at Jen, insisting, "It wasn't me, it was her. Sue her." But the emails tell another story. Throughout the chaos, Jen's communications reflect a stark contrast. Her emails, signed Jones Works, prove she was simply caught in the storm. One message, in particular, stands out. "I sent you an email outlining what I think our strategy should be." Justin is not being properly represented in these stories. We have to fight for every single one. I've also attached my phone records so you can see I never called the Daily Mail, nor did I receive or make calls to any media. I swear with my hand to God, I have never leaked anything to any outlet. I just want to help Justin and Wayfair. Yet, the contradictions continue. Stephanie's emails show her responding to inquiries from the Mirror and TMZ, evidence of her deep involvement. When the situation spiraled, she didn't take responsibility. Instead, she ran to Blake and Ryan, believing they could shield her while turning the legal crosshairs onto her employees. But the truth is surfacing. Stephanie acted independently, outside of Justin's wishes, outside the agreed-upon scope. Texts revealed Justin's stance. He wanted no negativity, no attacks against Blake. Yet, the counter cross-complaint from Jennifer Abel changes everything. It exposes Stephanie, pulling her directly into the case where she belongs. It forces those backing her to realize they've been targeting the wrong person all along. Blake, Ryan, and Leslie want the case thrown out, arguing there's no evidence. But simultaneously, they want the timeline erased because, in their words, there's too much evidence. The contradiction is telling. The timeline clearly demonstrates a coordinated effort. Stephanie with the Daily Mail, Stephanie with Leslie, all working to shift blame onto Wayfair, onto Justin, as an act of retaliation. And why? Because Blake didn't get the payout she wanted. That, in my view, is the driving force behind this tangled mess. Ryan, meanwhile, feigns innocence while sending cease and desist letters, threatening lawsuits over alleged reputational damage. He claims their goal was to make him look like a bully, but that was never the goal. The reality of this case is becoming clearer by the day. It isn't about sexual harassment. It's about PR warfare. The judge saw it, calling this exactly what it is, a battle between PR firms. And yet, mainstream media continues to defend Blake and Ryan, unwilling to acknowledge the glaring truth. The question is, for how much longer? It's truly disturbing how some outlets, like Deadline, seem obsessed with Ryan, so much so that they're deliberately downplaying the evidence Justin and Wayfair have provided. It's as if they're choosing to ignore the complaints, dismissing the timeline, and allowing themselves to be gaslit. And let's talk about Lakeside. They want to turn this into a political issue, claiming that only Republicans are against them. But I completely disagree. This isn't about politics. It's about people on both sides refusing to tolerate deception, bullying, and abuse of power. No one, regardless of their political stance, appreciates being lied to or watching the powerful trample over others, forcing them to take the fall for their misconduct. On this channel, I don't play favorites. It doesn't matter if you're Ryan Reynolds, Cody Brown, Jim Bob Duggar, or anyone else. Wrong is wrong. And too often, bad people hide behind their political affiliations, using them as a shield to appear righteous while the media conveniently looks the other way. They ignore the mistreatment of children in reality television. They turn a blind eye to Cody Brown's questionable actions. They downplayed the crimes of Jim Bob and Josh Duggar. They even pandered to figures like Todd Chrisley, who, let's not forget, is now in prison. These media outlets act as though they have the moral high ground, yet they willingly ignore the truth when it suits them. But this case is different. It has united people from all sides. Now, bringing Stephanie Jones into this situation, that might just be the final nail in the coffin for them. And honestly, I'm proud of Jennifer A.L. for standing up and countersuing. I'm of Justin and Wayfair for fighting back. Because at the end of the day, this all circles back to one thing: Jeff, Stephanie Jones, and the reckless actions of Blake and Ryan. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching. See you next time.